life. They come and go. There's lots of ups and downs, and I had been in a down period, and I shot up to such a high period, and then I saw my time in Houston kind of coming back down, and so I've seen both sides of the spectrum, learned a lot about people, learned a lot about the world. So I think, I think I'm a little more mature this time around.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Jamie Maggio, and you are now connected with Jeremy Lin. Jeremy, first off, how are you acclimating to Los Angeles and your new team and surroundings?
It's going well. Transition's pretty smooth, and I have some family out here and friends, so it's been easy so far. I love it.
And how's the recognition around Los Angeles going?
LA definitely has high celebrity recognition, just because I think there's a lot of celebrities that live in LA and stuff. But actually, people are really chill and cool out here. They're just kind of like, what's up? Good luck this season. I'm like, thanks. See ya.
You went from playing in New York, big city on the East Coast, at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. Now you're here playing for the Lakers. How could you compare the two?
It's tough so far, but the one thing that is definitely like familiar is just when I was with the Knicks, there were so many like New York fans everywhere, even on the road, and the same thing's true for LA. It's like everywhere we go, hey, I'm a Laker fan. Hey, was born in LA or been a lifelong Laker fan. So it's cool to be a part of such two such enthusiastic fan bases.
And your dad was a Laker fan, right? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Yeah, he was a Kareem fan. I don't know if he's like, I could call him like a Laker fan, diehard, but he was definitely a Kareem fan.
What was it about Kareem?
The sky hook. He just loved it, and that was kind of, my dad's a little shorter, so had trouble getting his shot off, and so he had to use the hook shot and kind of learned it and fell in love with Kareem as a player.
Now, who's his favorite player in the NBA?
She had to ask him, but if he doesn't say me, then we're gonna have some problems. I'm hoping it's me.
Looking back at your transition from Palo Alto High School, you go to Harvard. Was Harvard your first choice?
Harvard was actually like my last choice, almost like second to last choice. I really wanted to stay in California. I really wanted to play in the Pac, at the time it was Pac-10, so UCLA, Cal, Stanford. Stanford was my #1 choice. I was begging to go to any of those three schools. None of them wanted me to play, so the only two teams that were really recruiting me at the D1 level was Harvard and Brown, and then Brown dropped out once they had a coaching change, and so Harvard was kind of like the last option, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll go.
Harvard's at the end of your list, and you want to go to these California schools, and you had a very successful high school career. Then you go on to be quite successful at Harvard. Was there a sense of vindication?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, my first 2 years, I just felt like really offended that I wasn't, accepted by Stanford or recruited by Stanford or whatever. And so I kind of had that chip on my shoulder, but then as time went on, I kind of realized, like, that's kind of a stupid thing to hold a grudge over, and just to let it go. And I think also as I matured, like as a Christian, is just kind of understanding, like, look, there are some things that are worth like thinking about and dwelling over, and that's not one of them. And so I just try to really free my mind of that type of stuff, and just play for God, and then like as I focus more on that, proving whoever wrong became less and less important.
Do you believe in the cliche, everything happens for a reason?
Yeah, I mean, I tell people all the time, like, had I actually gone to Stanford, I probably wouldn't have made it to the NBA. Harvard was perfect because it was a smaller school, smaller D1 school. It allowed me to grow and come into my own and be the go-to guy. But then at the same time, because you're a D1 school, I was able to play against a lot of other D1. We ended up playing Georgetown, BC, UConn, and some of those games were probably the biggest reasons why I had my name even on the radar to begin with.
Mm-hmm. When you look at the program there at Harvard and what Coach Tommy Amaker has built over the last few years, is there a sense of pride that you were there in the beginning and part of that foundation?
Yeah. If you look back from my freshman to senior year, I mean, it's just like, you can't even compare the two. We used to go to games my freshman year, and there would just, be like nobody in the gym, like 50 people probably. Then by the time we left, it was just like rowdy, crazy, sell out every game. And it was just like Coach Amagrera brought so much publicity and hype around it because he was such a big time coach. The way he transformed the program and we started winning. And then you look at it now they're in the tournament every year. Now they're getting out of the first round every year in the tournament. So he's definitely built something special over there.
So by the time you were at the end of your career there, it was actually a hot ticket going to a basketball game.
Yeah, I mean, we still had a really small gym, so it wasn't hard to sell out, but at least we had people in the gym, and that's, you know, I was thankful for that.
Small gym probably helps with the home court advantage, too. It gets loud in there.
Yeah, it gets loud in there. It's pretty sweet.
During March Madness a couple of years ago, after linsanity with the Knicks, Harvard did something they've never done in school history, which was sell the Jeremy Lin basketball jersey on campus. Tell me about that and what that means to you, that they did something they'd never done before.
Yeah, definitely very honored when you think about, you know, stuff that hasn't been done at a school like Harvard. It's kind of daunting to think about all the accomplishments that university has had. So I'm definitely thankful. I feel like it's definitely a blessing from God for me to take such a different path, you know, like Harvard not being known for basketball per se, and being able to take me through this journey and to be able to look back and see some of the cool things that happened like that. It definitely is pretty sweet to think about.
What did you learn from that experience, that catapult into the spotlight?
You know, this might surprise people. Like, it's great to have gone through that, and it was one of the best times of my life, but it's not one of those things that's like eternally like fulfilling.
What's been the biggest disappointment in your career so far?
That's a good question. I don't really know if there's any one, but I would say a couple low points, probably my rookie year, going to the D-League and kind of doing that and going through the whole D-League circuit was tough. Getting cut twice in 2 weeks was pretty tough. And then I would say, you know, my time in Houston was definitely very hard for me as well. In a lot of ways, I'm very disappointed in how those 2 years ended up. And, you know, you'll never be able to, you know, say it's only because of this, or it's only because of that, or it's this person's fault, or it's that person's fault. But overall, when I think about my time in Houston, I just, you know, think those 2 years were a little disappointing.
When you look back, you know, you mentioned being cut twice. I mean, did you ever think, man, I should be doing something else? I've got a Harvard degree. Did you ever think about walking away from the NBA?
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't going to walk away on my own terms, in terms of like I am, you know. It was more one of those things where, like, if I got cut again from the Knicks, I probably would have taken a little bit of time off and reset, reevaluate. And then I think, like, if I had like gotten to the point where the only thing left was to play in the D-League full time, I think I definitely would have walked away at that point as well. So there's definitely a lot of thoughts of quitting that were in my mind, and, you know, trying not to think about getting cut, but then trying to be as realistic as possible, knowing that, you know, I was probably going to get cut.
What would your fallback plan be?
I had no idea. You know, I'm really interested in nonprofit stuff, but I didn't know if it was like something that I could just, you know, jump right into right away, or if I had to go to, you know, get more experience, or if I should get something like in the corporate world and then like get a couple years experience. I don't know. I was just, these are just kind of some of the thoughts that never really were fully fleshed out, and I'm glad that they didn't have to be.
Oh yes, absolutely. We're glad too. What type of nonprofits interest you?
Well, right now it's just like my foundation, and we have a very creative name, the Jeremy Lin Foundation, and we just focus on empowering underprivileged children. And I've always had a heart to work with youth, and growing up with, you know, I grew up in Palo Alto, but next to Palo Alto is East Palo Alto, which is a pretty rough neighborhood, or it used to be. And I had a lot of teammates that were there, and so that's how I kind of developed a passion for trying to help out the underprivileged.
Mm-hmm. When you were playing in the D-League and bouncing around, and then you fast forward and you have this sensation in the largest city in the country, in New York City, and you just take over with linsanity. What did you learn from that experience, that catapult into the spotlight?
I learned so many things, but, you know, this might surprise people. Like, it's great to have gone through that, and it was one of the best times of my life, but it's not one of those things that's like eternally like fulfilling, you know. It's one of those things that, like, almost makes you even hungrier for it, and it's for more success. And so one thing that I learned is just the fleeting satisfaction of success, how quickly or how bad you want it, and then when you finally have it, how empty you can feel through it. I think that's one of the things that I learned. I think I also just learned things in this life, they come and go. There's lots of ups and downs, and I had been in a down period and I shot up to such a high period, and then I saw my time in Houston kind of coming back down, coming back down, coming back down. And so I've seen both sides of the spectrum, learned a lot about people, learned a lot about the world. So I think, I think I'm a little more mature this time around, going into my 5th year.
And certainly that can apply to just beyond basketball and in life in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, learning, these are life lessons, and principles and that you can just apply to all different stages and areas of life. Hopefully by the time my career is done, there's something even cooler to talk about besides linsanity, and hopefully people will evaluate me as a body of work upon my whole career and not just those that month.
Better teammate, Dwight or Kobe?
Better teammate, Dwight or Kobe?
Given the way that New York embraced you, in your experience here and the success that you had with the Knicks, do you wish that the Knicks would have matched the Rockets' offer?
It's one of those things that's kind of very similar to the whole Stanford-Harvard thing. It's oftentimes, what God has taught me in my life is what I want isn't usually what's best for me, but I just don't know. Stanford was an example. I think New York was a blessing in disguise that I didn't go back. I wanted to go back myself, but it didn't happen that way. And I think Houston happened for a reason, and I think I'm in LA for a reason. And I think, this year, hopefully, things will turn around a little bit for me. And I just think, I've learned so much as a person, as a player in Houston, and it hasn't come with all the improvements or the better stats or whatever, but I think it's made me a more complete person and player.
Talk to me more about your time in Houston. I mean, you signed a big contract, you go there. Did that contract bring additional pressure?
It did my first year, I felt like I had to really live up to it. I don't know, it wasn't really the contract, it was more like the hype around linsanity. Just, I gotta be this player who, captivated the city of New York. I have to try my best to, make sure that it wasn't a, one-week wonder or flash in the pan. By the time I got into my 2nd year in Houston, I didn't care about that stuff at all. But again, that's one of those things where Houston is a smaller market, obviously less of a spotlight. And for me to go through those struggles and go through those down times and have to fight through adversity, to be able to do that in a smaller market is, obviously easier than when you're in a fishbowl, like in New York.
And still, I mean, when people hear Jeremy Lin, they're always going to think of linsanity. Do you almost hate to hear it come out of their mouths?
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons. The pro is I'm thankful for their support. I'm thankful that it means something to them, that they remember it, that they appreciate it. The downside is, I don't want to be compared to that, or I don't want to live in the shadow of that the rest of my career. And so one thing that I've always kind of said is just, keep working, keep playing, and hopefully by the time my career is done, there's something even cooler to talk about besides linsanity, and hopefully people will evaluate me as a body of work upon my whole career and not just those that month.
Basketball is a team sport. What makes a good teammate?
I think, the top things in no particular order. One, you have to have humility. You have to be able to understand that basketball or any team sport comes with sacrifice, comes with sharing, and comes with being a part of, investing into a greater cause beyond yourself. So humility, I think, communication, learning to communicate effectively, appropriately, saying things a certain way, or being able to communicate and get the best out of people versus driving them away from you. And then, there's the whole basketball side, being talented, skilled, hard worker, stuff like that.
Well, I have to ask you then, better teammate, Dwight or Kobe?
Better teammate, Dwight or Kobe? Mm-hmm. I haven't spent a lot of time with Kobe as much just because it's been so new, but, it's different, The one thing I will say, it might get, people might not like me for saying it, but Dwight was tremendous to me. He was very nice to me, great heart, really solid person, very generous. My relationship with Kobe has been different. As I've said, he's kind of just from the start, right when I signed, he texted me. From there, he was trying to get me to come work out with him, and then he's been teaching me. And for him, he's been in the league a little longer, and he's at a different stage in his career. He's done more, he's accomplished more, and he is who he is. And he's definitely been, kind of taking me under his wing and really just trying to teach me as much as he can, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can. And so it's definitely a different dynamic.
People say Kobe's wired differently. Do you see that?
Yeah. He's definitely wired differently. I don't know exactly how to say it, but one of the ways is attention to detail. The things he thinks about, or the way that he works, or the way that he tries to break everything down or understand the game. It's definitely when you watch him, or when you work out with him, or when you listen to him talk about film, you'll quickly understand that he's on a different level, or he just thinks about things in a different way. And his mindset as well. People always talk about how competitive he is and whatnot, but I don't think people always see the human side of who he is, and they don't see the human element as much, which is there. Just him when he's not on the court and when there are no cameras around, just like a solid, really cool person, funny, and just very down to earth in a lot of different ways.
What was that first moment where you looked up and said, wow, this is where I am?
After New York had happened, things were crazy in New York, and it was all crazy. When I went to Asia after New York, I thought I was gonna die, in the middle of some of those mobs. I really thought, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get out.
One thing that Byron Scott loves about you is your aggressiveness. Where did you learn that style?
My parents can tell you I've been a hard-headed, stubborn kid from birth. My parents, in Chinese, one of my names kind of represents loyalty and courage and boldness, because I was always kicking and moving in my mom's stomach. And, the minute I touched the basketball, I was just running around, running into things, running over things. That's just how I've always been. So I guess I just kind of carried it into who I am now as a player.
You're on a short list of Asian Americans that have played in the NBA. There's got to be some sense of pride that comes from being on that list.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very proud of who I am. I'm very proud of my Asian heritage, and I think there's a lot of stereotypes or misconceptions about Asians and Asian Americans, and I can't change everything, but if I can help, tweak or chop down a couple of the stereotypes, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Do you feel like in this opportunity that's your responsibility?
I think honestly my responsibility where I'm at right now is to try my best to be myself. And it's not one of those things where I'm not going to evaluate, did I break down this stereotype, or did I destroy this myth or this misconception. It's more just be yourself, and those things will happen naturally. And that's kind of what I've learned through everything, is just as long as I stay focused on what I'm trying to do, God will take care of all the other things that, need to be accomplished, or all the other things that I hope to see happen.
A few times in this interview, you've mentioned your faith, and that's something that you're not shy about discussing. Is that tough for a professional athlete to do?
It's different for me. It's not one of those things where I necessarily go into, an interview or an appearance or anything and say, I must mention it this amount of times. It's more just natural. If someone asks me a question, I just try to answer it as honestly as I can. And I don't try to, I just try to say really how it happened. And so for me, my faith has been so big in who I am and how far I've come and the things that have happened that are beyond my control. And so I just try to give credit where credit's due.
People say sometimes, be careful when you talk about religion and politics. Do you ever get any flack from teammates or media or friends?
Not really. I think, in this day and age, people, they observe and they listen and they respect you for who you are and what you stand for. And it looks different for everybody else, but for me, I just try to be myself, and if that offends people or if people don't like it, obviously don't wish that, but I just try to be myself.
You come to Los Angeles, there's fans with your jersey all over the place, and you've got that status internationally as well. Could you ever have imagined this when you're playing with the Reno Bighorns, that one day?
No. When I was with the Reno Bighorns, one thing I was focused on is not being with the Reno Bighorns, and that was getting to Golden State as soon as possible. Never did I think, you know, I'm trying to think back to New York when you looked in those crowds and it was just like, it was just a sea of just blue and orange, and it was so cool. Never thought that, and now, you know, seeing people wear my Lakers jersey, I mean, it's one of those things where you just have to sometimes take a step back and get out of the moment or what you're trying to accomplish at that time and just appreciate everything that's happened and just how fortunate I am to be here.
What was that first moment where you looked up and said, wow, this is where I am?
You know, probably after New York had happened. Things were crazy in New York, and yeah, you know, it was all crazy. When I went to Asia after New York, you know, I thought I was gonna die. Like in the middle of some of those mobs, like I really thought I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get out, and so it was like that crazy. But that's when I was just like, okay, this is another level.
What is that like, just standing in a mob of people that are trying to pull at you and take your picture? And
it's scary. It's real scary. And you know, we had like a team of like 8 security guards like making a circle and trying to like just literally bulldoze people, like moms carrying babies, just trying to bulldoze them out the way because we were all like tripping and falling and stuff. It was definitely a crazy and unique experience.
let me ask you this: most famous alumni from Palo Alto High School? Jim Harbaugh, James Franco, Jeremy Lin.
I'm not very in tune with all that, but I've definitely heard James Franco like a billion times, so I would have to say I'm pretty sure it's him.
Well, let's just look at the Palo Alto community. The three of you walk into a restaurant. Who gets the first table?
It depends. Is it an Asian restaurant? Because if it's an Asian restaurant, I better get the first table. No, I don't know. You know, no offense to Jim Harbaugh, but it'll probably be me and or James Franco. The advantage that I have is I spend my off seasons there now, and people always see me around in the community and stuff. And there have been less years from the time that I graduated till now.
You said that you hope that someday down the road people will want to talk to you about something other than linsanity. So what are you hoping to accomplish?
I mean, I'd like to win a championship. That'd be pretty sweet. But, you know, that's very easy to dream about, very hard to accomplish.
All right, Jeremy, thank you so much for your time. And you've been connected with Jeremy Lin.